Hello, welcome back to Reading the Decades with me, and welcome back to possibly the longest of my 3 or 4 or 5 wrap-up videos I'm filming at the moment. This one is about all the books. There aren't any new releases, that aren't my favourites, that were just all the literary fiction, thrillers, non-fiction, children's books that I read in the last couple of months, and that I didn't want to make a longer or a more purposeful video, but because they were just good reads, mediocre reads, but they weren't my favourites. There weren't any spectacular new releases or whatsoever, but still there are a few very good reads and very good gems, so stay tuned. And it's nice to have you back. It's nice to film again, and it's very, very sunny at the moment. It's unpredictable weather again today. It's windy and sunny and cloudy, and so I'm very sorry about the change of the lighting situation. Bear with me. Let's start with a DNF. I usually tend to finish my books. I'm not one who stops midway through, even if I don't like them. I didn't have a DNF in ages. I don't know when it was the last time I ever did not finish a book, but this time it definitely happened. It wasn't the right time for the book. I wasn't in the right mindset for that book, and I just struggled. The book I'm talking about that I did not finish, that I read halfway through, I think I read up until nearly page 200, is Jeff Vandermeer's Dead Astronauts. And yes, I have to admit, it was 60% a cover bio, but the story also sounded very intriguing. It is the second installment in a series, I think. The first one's called Born, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure, but I think you can read them independently from each other. Well, this one was about a group of beings. I can't really explain it. It's like humanoid beings, but they can turn into fungi, into plasma, I think. Yeah, it's like, well, they have to go to a town, a city, and what they do, it repeats again and again, and it's very complicated to describe that. And it's about, I think they have to stop something happening in a company about bioengineering, and they have to try it again and again and again because they fail, but they can move to different timelines where they can retake their chances of changing the outcome. It's interesting. I definitely say it's very, very interesting, and maybe I'll try reading this book again. I'm not so keen on the topic, I think. I like science fiction. I'm not the one for this topic, I think. I like science fiction. I just discovered science fiction this year for me, really. But I think this is a bit too deep for me at this point in time. I really like the idea. I would really like to read up on the idea in a matter of getting some actual non-fiction information about what Jeff Vandermeer has based his idea on, and I think then it is much more easy to get an understanding for this story and get a grip on this story. So maybe I'll try it again. It's not a definite DNF for me at this point in time. Another Jeff Vandermeer I read was Annihilation. I started rediscovering my my e-reader, and I downloaded Annihilation, the first book in the Southern Reach trilogy by Jeff Vandermeer, and I was a bit a bit cautious about, because I had this not bad experience, but this DNF. And yeah, but I quite enjoyed Annihilation. I don't think I'm going to continue with the series though, because Annihilation really stood for itself. I watched the film a few months back, maybe even just when it came out, I don't know when that was, and I enjoyed the film. I enjoyed the book as well, and I can definitely tell, you can tell that it is a Jeff Vandermeer. You have this idea of intelligent fungi again, and the book was, Annihilation was amazing. I really enjoyed it, but I want to have it stand on its own. I don't want to know more about Area X, because Annihilation just impressed me so much. So basically what it is about is there's this weird area called Area X, and this doesn't reach. Are they a company? Are they a government institution? I don't know. They send out research groups into this Area X, and this research group follows a group of women who well, basically explore that area, and strange happenings are going on, and yeah, really enjoyed that one. I don't follow any reason right now with the books. I don't follow any order, so I just grabbed the books that are laying here beside me from the big piles. It's a massive pile. And we just talk briefly about them. I can't remember all of them anymore. I didn't like all of them, so bear with me. I just give you a quick overview of what I read, and I can at least tell you if it was good or not. A very good one I read was Felicity McLean's The Fun Apfel Girls Are Gone, which is, first of all, it is set in Australia. I love books that are set in Australia. I don't think there are enough books out there that are set in Australia, so if you know like other books than The Luminaries, for example, that are set in Australia, please recommend them to me, because I want to read them all. This story is told in retrospect. It's about Tika Molloy. This is about Tika, who now lives in America, comes home back to Australia where she grew up, and where in the early 90s her friends, the Fun Apfel Girls, 3 siblings, vanished from her street where she lived, or where they all lived. And this tells the story up to the point when they vanished, and beyond that point she tries to figure out what really happened in that summer. They were all still quite young, early teenage years, some still in their childhood years, and she tries to understand what happened, and she tries to understand or to imagine where those Fun Apfel Girls could be now. What is it, 20 or 30 years later? And I really enjoyed that one. It was very nostalgic, obviously, because it is set in the early 90s, and I just love books that have this atmosphere of a childhood summer, friendship, a heat wave, all set in the 80s or 90s, and the ending was very well done in my opinion, and I can highly recommend this one. It was amazing. Then not too long ago I read The Carer by Deborah Mogach. Is it Mogach? I don't know, but basically it's about Phoebe and Robert, who are siblings, and their father James, he lives on his own, and he gets a new carer in, and Phoebe and Robert are skeptic and don't really know what to think of that new carer, because she is quite a personality, and she brings with her lots of tumult. She brings with her lots of she stirs up old, not family secrets, but old incidents, old stories that had happened in the family, and what I was really, it's not a story I would read usually, and also the protagonists are all quite old. Like James is, I think, in his 80s or 90s, and Phoebe and Robert are in their 50s and 60s, I believe. So this is nothing which I would have picked up if I would have known about that, because that age difference is just so big that I would have said, oh, I'm not interested in reading about people that are so much older than me. But I didn't know about it, and when I read it, you couldn't really feel the age difference, because the book was about matters that always matter in your life. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can be 20, 40, 50, 60, 90 years old even, as a dad is, I think. And so yeah, that was a very interesting read, and it was a very, very good read, because I think it's very hard to make something, to write about something that is important to somebody who is 60, but also somebody who is maybe 20 or 30. So big kudos to Deborah Mogger for writing this one, because I think she's done a fabulous job. And this book is definitely a book that you can read all ages. Maybe not necessarily as a teenager, but as an adult you can read it until you die, basically, because you can so relate to this, what she's written about. Very well done. The next book I have here is Sophie Mackintosh, The Water Cure, which is set on I think it's an unnamed island. It's about 3 sisters, their mother and their father, living very secluded on this island, and the father protects the women, especially the 3 children. But one day there are strangers coming to that island and disrupt and destroy the worldview and the order they have on that island and in that family. So it's very mysterious. You don't really know as a reader anything about the outside world, what is happening beyond this island, and you're not sure, is this a cult, is this just a very deeply religious family? It was definitely a very good read. Can recommend this one. Another very good book was In Our Mad and Furious City by G. Gunaratne. I'm very sorry I can't say that name. Which is set in housing estates. A black person was killed, and now it talks about, is it 4 people? I think it's 4 or 5 different points of views, how they deal with that situation, how they deal with their lives in this housing estate, how they deal with being a teenager, a person of color in our current society. And the language the author worked into this book, into the characters, was phenomenal. I really enjoyed this one. It was really interesting, and I wish I could say more, but it's so long ago since I read this. And yeah, but I can definitely recommend this one. It was a very good one. Oh, I'm so sorry that I can't say a lot more about this at the moment, because there is so much to say about this one. I should have really put this one with my favorite books of the last couple of months that I read, because that definitely has potential to be a reread again, and also become one of my favorite books if it's not already. So maybe I do a whole video on this book, because I think this book definitely deserves a whole video, because you can say so much about this. So maybe you see that one again in the future. I'm starting to get into this whole academia vibe. I always liked books about schools, and so I picked up Joanne Harris' Different Class, which is set at St. Oswald's Grammar School in North Yorkshire. And I think there are several books in this series. I think you can read them independently from each other. this one, and they're all, I think, mystery crime novels. This is set in current times, but also always has a flashback to is it the 70s or the 90s? There's several flashbacks to other times. Basically, we follow this teacher who's already quite old, in his 60s or 70s. They want him to retire, and the whole school gets a makeover, with a new headmaster that has new plans to restructure the whole school. And apparently the new headmaster was a student of that teacher once in the 90s, I believe it was, and something had happened there back then. And yeah, basically the book is about how this secret still lingers between the walls of that school and between the teacher and the new headmaster now. And yeah, quite enjoyed that. Joanne Harris, I think most people know her for her Chocolat series that also got adapted into a film with Johnny Depp. And yeah, I think there are 2 other books in this St. Oswald series, and I'm looking forward to reading them as well. This was quite alright. A book that really got me through lockdown, which is a bit unfair to say because the topic in this book is so much more serious, but it's Emma Donohue's Room, which is basically about a little boy, 5 years old, who has never seen the outside world because he grows up in confinement together with his mother that got abducted several years ago. And then one day they're trying to flee their confined cell, basically, where they're being held captive. And yeah, really enjoyed that one. It was on my list for quite a few years, actually. I'm so glad I finally got to read this one. I think it was a perfect time to read this one. Obviously you can't compare those 2 situations, what happens in this book and what happens with the world at the moment, but I have to say it was a perfect time to read this, and it really helped me through lockdown. And now I'm looking forward to also watching the film. A quite short one I read is a translation. It's called Childhood. It's called Childhood, the Copenhagen Trilogy Part 1 by Tove Ditlevsen. Yeah, this one was on my radar for quite some time now. It is the memoirs of the authors of her childhood in, is it the early 1900s? Yeah, she was born 1917. And this basically is a recollection of her childhood. Then we also have her adolescence and her adulthood, I believe. And yeah, it was quite a good read. I don't think I read the next 2 installments in this trilogy in the near future, but I'm definitely interested in wrapping up the trilogy at one point in my life. A book I really enjoyed as well was Halle Butler's The New Me, which is about a protagonist shuffling through her work life, basically. She works at an office. She has a hard time to hold and keep the job she's working in. Now she hopes that she gets a permanent job there where she's working. And what is her name? Her name is Millie, and she's 30 years old. So it's basically about our generation's struggles at the moment. And yeah, I enjoyed that one. A prose poetry book I read is Max Porter's Grief is the Thing with Feathers, which is about 2 young boys that have lost their mother, it is, I think, and now they're grieving together with their father. And I don't know, it was impactful. It was quite amazing. Like, they're having a crow visiting them, and crow takes basically over the part of being their grief, and it's so long ago again. Can't really remember. I didn't even write down anything while I was reading those books lately. I don't know. It's a bit dusty. Yeah, there's another book by Max Porter, Lenny I think it's called, and I'm interested in reading that as well. I love prose poetry, and how Max Porter played with language in this one was quite impressive. I don't think I'm as big of a fan as like lots and lots of people are, especially on YouTube. I've seen so much praise for that. I definitely think it was amazing, but yeah, I'm not a massive fan of Grief is a Thing with Feathers. A book I did not like is Alex Phoebe's Lucia. I'm a massive fan of Ulysses by James Joyce. I like James Joyce's writing. This book is about Lucia Joyce, who was James Joyce's daughter, who got forgotten in the stream of time. She was quite a significant character though, in her own means. She was a gifted dancer and the lover of Samuel Beckett, but people forgot about her, and this one tries to bring her back to life, but the way it was done, I thought it was inappropriate. I just didn't like it. The account of her life was so looked upon from high up, looking down on somebody, and no, I did not like it. I wish I would have written some more about those books, because I can remember that I had so many thoughts, and I told them all to my fiancé at the time when I finished reading this one and the other books as well. And now I can only remember that I didn't like it because I thought it was disrespectful, and yeah. A very interesting book I read was, and it was something new for me to read, it was legal writing. Would you let your wife read this book, The Trial of Lady Chatterley's Lover? So this is written by Sybil Bedford, who was there when the trial of Lady Chatterley happened in 1960. And this book is basically a word-to-word account of the trial itself, about what the people that were involved in the trial said in the courtroom. Super short book, super interesting, and super surprising as well. The people you meet there in this courtroom and their account of what they're saying. Very interesting. Can only recommend this if you're interested in legal writing, if you're interested in investigating in journalism, if you're interested in Lady Chatterley. A book I had to read because I read Peter Swanson's Rules for Perfect Murders was The Red House Mystery by A. Milne, the writer of Winnie the Pooh. Yeah, this is a classic crime, and I had it on my shelves for quite a bit, and it gets mentioned in the other book, and I didn't want to get spoiled. I had to briefly pause my other book, picked this one up, enjoyed it. It was alright. It was a classic crime story. Was enjoyable, but didn't have a huge impact on me. A book I did not like, sadly, is A Secret Diary of Adrian Moore by Sue Townsend. This is like a collection of the first and second part. I only read the first one. The sun is so glaring at me. Let's move around a bit. Oh, let's hold the book here and I sit in the sun. You have to see the book, not me. So yeah, this is a huge classic from the 80s. It's a big piece of British, it's a big piece, it's an enormous work of British literature. And in this respect, I did understand it, I did read it, and with this in mind, and it was alright, but I had my problems with it. I don't think it's like 50-50 in how it holds up to be read in 2020 now. But I think it was important to read this one, and maybe one day I will also read part 2, but I'm not so sure. I watched the series. Series was quite fun. It's quite close to the book. It was interesting to compare those two together, but yeah. I don't know, have you read Adrian Mole maybe when you were younger? I think I might have liked it a lot if I've read that 20 years earlier actually, or yeah, 18 years earlier maybe. Another children's classic I read, or 2 children's classics I read, were another 2 The Famous 5 books, which I'm slowly making my way through all of Enid Blyton's books, and I read 2, what were there, 5, my books here, 5 Run Away Together and 5 On Smuggler's Top, I believe they were. I quite enjoyed them, and when I finished reading them all, I'm gonna film a big collective wrap-up of them all and a big Enid Blyton video. Then I read 3 thrillers. I have 2 more Harlan Coben books. I've read 3 Harlan Coben so far in the last couple of months. I have Caught and I have Run Away. This one I did not really like. It's about a family. The daughter has vanished. She ran away, and now the father tries to get her back. Yeah, it didn't really stick with me, didn't really like that one. And this one Caught, I don't actually know anymore what this one is about. Can only briefly remember them. I don't know. I think Harlan Coben is alright to read, but he doesn't stick with me. But the books look nice. And the thriller I just recently read is C.L. Taylor's The Escape. I'm really interested in, is it called Sleep by C.L. Taylor, which I really want to read very soon. I had this one on my TBR though. This is Joe Blackmore, who gets terrorized by a woman called Paula. Is it Paula? I think so. And she doesn't know what's going on basically in life. She tries to convince her husband that they're in serious danger. She's worried for her daughter, and in the end it drives her into sheer madness, and she tries to escape from it all. Yeah, was alright. I didn't really connect with it, to be honest. I'm always a bit like, when there's children involved, I'm not a mother myself. I don't plan on having children, so I always have a hard time to relate to those kind of thrillers. And then, as I already mentioned, I rediscovered my Kindle. I'm absolutely in love at the moment with e-readers. The first book after a long time I read on there was Alma Katsu's The Hunger, which is inspired by a true story. Is it in the 1800s? I think so, yeah, it's in the 1800s. It's about pioneers going on the long journey from the east to the west to California to start a new life there. It's about this group of pioneers and their hard journey to the west, and they're getting ravaged by misfortune, by failures, by crimes, and also they're getting followed by a mysterious creature. They're not sure, are they wolves? People are getting ill, people are starting to vanish, and I just flew through that book. I later found out it's nearly 500 pages, and I just flew through it, so really enjoyed that one. I want to read Makatsu's new book that comes out this year, I think. Is it The Deep or The Ocean? Something like that. And I also read The Ritual by Adam Neville. I watched it as a Netflix film. It's a horror film. I really enjoyed the film. The book I did not enjoy. There was like halfway through it went like two different paths, basically, the film and the book. And the book in the end to me was a bit pretentious. It's about a group of friends from the UK. They are going to Sweden for a weekend trip. They're going hiking. They get lost in the woods, and something starts to hunt them down. And yeah, didn't like the book. Enjoyed the film, so I can recommend the film, but the book was a bit not my cup of tea. So I think that's it. Well, that's the rest basically. The next video is going to be about my favourite books I read in the last couple of months, and then I have another book coming. No, I have another video coming about a bit of a different sort of books. I'm back into drawing, and so that video is going to be about art books basically. Don't know when this is going to come up, because it takes a bit more time to film, because I want to go into an in-depth review, and well, you'll see in the future, I hope. And I hope I see you next time. Until then, happy reading.